I'm not going to start this one with a ridiculous situation. I'm actually going to start this one straight by saying that difficult games have a right to exist. While on my main channel I've had this discussion before, I thought I'd have it again on this channel just because I feel like it. It came up again in the back of my mind when I was just playing Sekiro. I decided to restart it instead of fighting the same bit because I was frustrated. And I do this often with games like Dark Souls or Sekiro or Soulsborne type games because it helps me get through the game and beat it. Quite often I can't go through a game without playing at least 3 runs of it before I actually finish it. And that's fine with me, that's how I play it, but that might not be fine with everyone, which is fine, I guess. So why do I bring this up? I bring this up because I still see the occasional thing saying that difficult games do not need to exist because it is offensive, it's not good enough. People have a right to purchase the end of the game. Not purchase the end of the game, have the end of the game because they purchased it. And yet sometimes it's fine that they say it, but most of the no, it's never fine that you say it. I'm telling Porkies here, it's never fine to expect the ability to get to the end without at least working a little bit for it. There's a lot of games out there that are piss easy. I'm talking about stuff like Dear Escher. They're not games. They are just you press W, walk forward, and you find some story. That is an interactive storybook, in my opinion, not a video game. Those things existed when I was a kid. You'd get these stories, they're very short on these basic pages, and on the side would be a battery-powered little sound thing that my grandma used to read with me, and I'd press the button, the sound would go, I'd clap and fall asleep afterwards. That's not what a game is. A game, like a tabletop board game, let's take one of those for example, Scrabble. Scrabble, the basic idea is to put words down and earn points. You earn more points for certain letters. You earn even more points for placing those letters on a specific tile, which doubles your points or doubles the letter. Simple. Let's take Call of Duty. In the game, is you get from point A to B using the constriction of where you're going, using cover, using the gun in your hands to take out any opposition and get into the end. Now, those rules change. They are dynamic, in my opinion. What happens in a lot of these games is they usually have a set of multiple difficulty levels. For example, easy, so the enemies don't shoot very accurately, or they give you less damage, or they have less health, or a combination. And all the way up to, let's say, Nightmare mode in Doom, where everything is faster, harder, stronger, better, scooter. You get the picture. So what is wrong with games like Dark Souls, the Soulsborne series? Soulsborne series have one difficulty level which at the beginning, which already starts as difficult. It lets you know this very quickly by allowing even the most basic of creature have the ability to one-shot you. Or just absolutely destroy you if you don't pay attention. And that is fine. The game's difficulty spikes, fluctuates, but it never stays less than hard. If we use hard as in the term, let's take hard with the definition that the enemies have a good amount of health, they do a fair amount of damage, and also they're a little bit smarter. That is the definition of Dark Souls. While obviously the Dark Souls monsters don't always have the highest of intelligence, they quite often follow a basic pattern, or they follow a simple set of instructions that dictate their behaviors. Most often, you can figure out these behaviors by observing as you fight, or just by playing a lot. Which again is observing. You just have to observe your surroundings, and that is, to me, fine. There's no point going into a game where you can just spam a button and it kills everything. At one point it becomes boring. Where Dark Souls, you have to change up your tactics constantly in some cases. For example, the first Dark Souls, the first of the Dark Souls series, not Demon's Soul, that has one particular segment which is not the easiest to get to, but once you get there is ridiculous. It is a famous segment, and it is in Arno Londo, where you have to go up this very thin platform with silver armored archers shooting at you. It is very you cannot effectively block their arrows, because at one point they will just knock you off. They have that much backlash. But you also have to make sure that you have enough endurance and enough stamina to get to the top and then be able to fight them on a ridiculously thin platform. And when I first encountered that, I screamed, I raged, I put the game down for months, and then I came back to it and I beat it. I don't know why, but this is something that works for me. I did the exact same thing with Sekiro, with certain bosses, where I would go in, lose a load of times, put it down for maybe a couple of days, then get up, and somehow the gods of the gaming world, and not my patron, would bless me with the timing and the skills necessary to destroy the creature, or I would come in and have a new enlightenment on how to fight it. I mean, I'm going back through the game with previous knowledge, and I'm feeling that I understand the game a lot better than I did beforehand. I've gotten off a little track there. There was a bit of a tangent, and my patron might get a bit mad at this point. I mention him a lot. He is an eldritch browser who tells me to complain about things on the internet, and often enough I don't do enough of that. But there is no point going into a game and expecting an easy victory. Don't go into a game going, well, I've paid for it, that's enough to get to the end of the game without actually trying anything. A game can be a series of challenges, whether they be puzzles, combat, or even just getting around the place. For example, The Legend of Zelda has no difficulty levels. It is a difficult game if you don't think. I am not saying it's the Dark Souls. I hate it when anything says it's the Dark Souls of anything. That it pisses me off so much. Just say it's a difficult game. Just say it. Please. I'm not begging you. I'm demanding. I want to see your manager. I've got my Karen wig on. But Link Breath of the Wild can be a difficult game if you don't observe and you don't adapt. I mean, I still haven't beaten parts of the level, and I'm having to go back to the game because I've realised that I've not fully completed the game when I've beaten the last boss. I sat there, numb for about 20 minutes, and realised, hang on, I'm not finished. But right now I'm taking a break from the game because I overly played it. Whereas there are games like the latest I'm going to say the latest Mass Effect. No, I'm going to use Mass Effect 3 and Andromeda, who have story mode, which forgoes the combat and just takes you down the canon path with almost zero loss. There's no way of losing in that game. And that's just become an interactive story and no longer a game. I get it. Some people really enjoy story, but what's the point if you're not going to have a bit of activity in between? There's a game, I think it's called Rhyme, where you go around solving puzzles, and that's it. That's more of a game than what I've just mentioned. And then you get the activist journalists, the urinalists as people have been calling them, saying that hard games are offensive because I can't beat them. And when you've got hacks like, I don't even remember his name, but he You'll know him if I mention the man who took 20 minutes to beat the Cuphead tutorial because he couldn't understand the basic controls. And then he came out and said Doom, the new Doom, because he had an early access to the game, is too difficult because I was watching this. I tried to stay out of Doom Eternal's news fluctuations, but I just had to see what obliviousness that he did. And if he was at 100% obliviousness in the Cuphead game, this is just into the thousands of obliviousness. And I'm astounded that a man who is a professional games journalist can't even fucking play a game. That is a story for another day, but I will actually discuss that probably in the next video. Games are only difficult if you make them difficult. And I'm talking this from the player perspective. Developers obviously can make a game difficult, but a game is only difficult if you find it difficult. Not find it difficult, if you make it difficult. Sometimes it is just a simple misunderstanding of the mechanics. Sometimes it is just a refusal to change how you play. And sometimes it's just plain ignorance. And honestly, it is ridiculous how many developers are going along the lines of, oh, we'll just make a story mode. That'll appease the people who never actually play the game. Honestly, it is ridiculous how many developers are going along the lines of, oh, we'll just make a story mode. That'll appease the people who never actually play the game. And before anyone mentions it, yes, I'm going to talk about the disabled, the people who are disadvantaged in their ability to play. There are peripherals coming out that actually allow it to be a lot easier for them to play. Now, gaming isn't for everybody, and we shouldn't dilute the gaming space so much to the point that anyone can play, but there's absolutely no challenge to it whatsoever. And there'll always be a group, which I'm part of, that demands sometimes a nice difficult challenge because we enjoy it. If you say, well, that group is a minority, small group that doesn't count, and this large screaming baby group is going, well, what about these other people who can't play? It's unfair. Because all gaming, everyone who can play a game, everyone wants to play a game to enjoy them and not to change them, has a right to enjoy the games as they come. Sometimes there are examples where games do need to change, and I will find some of those examples in another video. And when I say need to change, I'm not talking about the, oh, it's offensive somewhere. I'm talking about they need to adapt, where they need to improve, or where they need to basically overhaul their system, because to me it's just absolutely stupid. And I'll do that in another video whenever. So I came up with an analogy that would help me solidify what I'm trying to say about difficulty, but using cake. Not everyone likes cake, but a lot of people do like cake. So the people who don't like cake don't have to have cake, but they shouldn't really say that people who like cake can't have cake because they don't like cake. I'm going to say cake so often now that it's going to lose its meaning, but cake. Anyway, now when you get to cake, the people who like it specifically, you have a broad range of people who like either a few different types of cakes. They're not really good with any cakes. They like specific cakes only, so like cheesecakes or chocolate cake or some form of fruit cake like Black Forest, which is actually fruit and chocolate. Or they have a specific diet requirement that stops them from having certain types of cake, or they are making direct choices because either they have, again, dietary requirements, or they can't have certain things. And then there's other things such as religious, blah, blah, blah. It all turns into a massive wad of... I'm going to keep with that one. So when you're trying to make a cake that appeases absolutely everyone, it's almost actually impossible. So when you're making games, you can't make a game that absolutely appeases everyone. So every single Call of Duty iteration actually doesn't appease every single Call of Duty fan. I mean, I have enjoyed a few of the differences in the different Call of Duties, but I've never fully enjoyed everything about them. I mean, I don't like some of the loadout systems in one of the... I think it was Infinity War, or it was in the one previous to that, but I don't like the loadout systems in that. I preferred the old style. I quite enjoyed the old style of leveling up to earn specific guns, and then them guns having specific challenges. But they went with leveling up, because apparently that's too difficult. But, see? I like Call of Duty, but I don't like everything they do with it. For example, I really enjoy the Soulsborne games, but I'm not very good at all of them without a lot of practice. But let's take my friend M. She really likes games. She loves rhythm games. I struggle to high hell with them. She's great at them. She spends a lot of time and getting very good at it. And I look at them and go, what the hell am I even doing? I am confused. Apart from one game which I've recently got into called Beat Saber, but that's not a button pressing game, that's a motion game. Different situation. Hence I like it. See? Different cake. She enjoys rhythm games. I do not. But either way, we like these different things. But we both like fighting games, and we both have different skills in fighting games. And it's really cool that we both enjoy some things, we both enjoy different things, but we're never forcing our opinions on what games are better. Because we're like, well, I like these games. Well, I like these games. But we don't like these games. Especially sports games. Sports games to me, nah, not a thing. I didn't mind the hockey games in the early iterations, but then it all got... Yeah, you know what I mean. Anyway, I'm going to move on. So, I kind of went off track there with the whole cake thing, but it still kind of helps me with my point. So, using different difficulties is fine. I don't have a problem with games introducing difficulties into it. Unless the game is inherently designed to be as it is, you can't change something that can be inherently designed one way without affecting the rest of the game to a degree. For example, if they suddenly decided that Breath of the Wild 2, which I don't know anything about apart from that it being a Zelda game, decided to have difficulty levels. If they did it in the way of, well, they've taken the original game and just slapped a difficulty level on without really thinking about the consequences of it, nah, that's not it. If they've designed the levels and, well, designed the behaviors of the game around 3 or to 4 difficulty levels, that is fine. It is upsetting to me that people are wanting games to be non-challenging because they want to see a story rather than having to work for that story. But what would be the point in video games otherwise? Go watch a film. Oh yeah, but it's different to when I'm watching a film because, well, I'm actually in the story. Well, then you're playing a game. But I don't really want to have to work with it. Well, you want to watch a film then. Or you want to go into a walking simulator like Dear Escher and many others. Yeah. I will find a small amount of games that are good examples of what I would call a walking simulator. But that's another video. I've got a long list of videos to make at one point, and you'll probably see them eventually. And I will probably forget about some of these subjects, so thank you for watching. I am the Opinion Warlock, my Patron has been sated, and you've heard my opinion. So I'll see you next time. Bye.